What is up, everybody? Circon is here, bringing you guys another video that's going to be a bit out of the norm than usual. I'm just going to give a little bit of constructive feedback um, about the new patch and what's on the test server right now. And the new patch is probably incoming in like a month or so. And I figure instead of just ranting on the stream and stuff like that, I figure I'd make an actual video that I can actually send to Wargaming and stuff like that. Just giving my feedback on it. Hopefully be a little bit more constructive than I don't like this, I don't like that, yada yada. So I wrote down a couple of things that I want to talk about, the things that I like and don't like about the new patch. So for those who have seen the stream, I'm pretty damn hyped for the new patch, and there's a couple of minor things that I would like to address, and I'm just going to do this in this video. So if you're looking for gameplay, you're not going to see it. However, I will talk about the things that I do and do not like, mostly just, giving feedback on things that I think need a little bit of changing, and, stuff like that. So I have it on in the background if you want to hear my thoughts. And if you're looking for gameplay, there's about 300 billion more videos on my YouTube channel that you can watch some gameplay on. So anyway, let's get into it. First off, let's get right started with artillery. So artillery, I think the changes are pretty damn great. So for those who still don't know what happened to it, is that all the artillery lost the 8 AP and heat shells. So they only have HE now. The HE also does significantly less damage. So if you take a look here, 1050, 1050. This is compared to, let's take the tanks that G one is 1850 with 102 pen, and it also gets AP with 241 millimeters. Significant differences there. And now you have the stun mechanic, which is a minimum 14 and maximum 28 on this tank right here. This is the tank I played on the test server to check out all the stun or all the changes to artillery. Artillery is also more accurate, it aims faster, stuff like that, so you'll make your shots more reliably. However, you will not pen anything more than 52 pen. You gotta still pen Rheinmetals and other artillery, and or maybe even like the shit bar and stuff like that. But for the most part, you're not gonna pen anything anymore. And HE also does less damage, but now the stun duration comes in. So what does stun do? It basically makes your crew 50% instead of 100%. So your aiming time, everything, load time will be longer for a duration, depending on how well you got hit by artillery. I think that this is fine. The only thing I'm kind of worried about, and I have to probably play it more, but I played 7 hours straight, almost 8 hours straight of test server, so I think I have a little bit of experience in this, and I think the stun duration might be a little bit too long in the higher tiers, because in the lower tiers, obviously with the smaller guns, if you take a look here at this little guy here is 6.7, and at maximum it is 10. So I think the lower tiers are pretty nicely done, all in all. The M44 also loses ridiculous heat, 6.7, 10.4. So lower tiers are going to be a lot more fun and playable than how they are now. The M44 is has some crazy heat on life right now. So all in all, I think it's great changes. I would say that the minimum and maximum needs to be brought down just a little bit. It's kind of hard to tell to how much, but I feel like it needs a little bit more fine tuning to make it maybe 10 seconds minimum, 20 seconds maximum. Something like that is what my gut feeling says right now. But overall, way more playable. They also added basically the mod that lets you see the view of your gun a bit more centered, if that makes any sense. Not an overhead view, but more a direct view. And that view is absolutely awesome. Just positive. I think it's really good. You can also now, with the hotkey of T, say where it is, where you're going to shoot. Even if it's not aimed at a tank, you can say, well, I'm going to shoot here. Also a really awesome thing that they added. So all in all, I'm really happy with it. I think the stun duration is a little bit too long. But all in all, great changes to artillery. Way better than on live. And that brings me to my last point about artillery, and that is that artillery is now limited to 3 artillery per team instead of 5. Which, again, I think is a great change, because, 5 artillery with stun would be kind of ridiculous. But the one thing I feel like they just forgot, because it's such an obvious thing now, is that you can still platoon up as a platoon of 2 to 3 artillery. meaning that you will take up all RT slots in your team. And that is, I think, too powerful and especially too annoying. Because if you can imagine, the stun is, you know, better than getting killed outright. But if 3 artillery starts shooting you, stunning you for forever, it's not gonna be any fun. Especially because they're now more accurate and stuff like that. So I feel, make platoons, you know, make ours to be able to platoon, that's fine. You know, do the scout missions and stuff like that. But limit it to 1 per platoon. Otherwise, you're gonna have the other situation where the enemy team will have a platoon of 3 artillery, and your own team has 3 randomers. Oh, obviously will be way less coordinated, and that will bring major disadvantages as well. So please limit it to 1 per platoon. I think that's a really obvious choice, and I think that's completely the right thing to do. I also kind of feel like, I haven't tested this myself, but if you platoon up with 3 artillery, the guy, if they coordinate well enough and shoot the same kind of targets, or the same targets, the same tanks, same area, the guy who will shoot first will get the stuns off first, and stun will now give you assistance damage, basically, for how much damage is being done to the tanks that are stunned. So if the first artillery fires, and then the second and third one fire, the guy who fired first will get a shit ton of assistance. I haven't tested this yet, but I think it might work that way, which might also be fucked up. But the short version is, make platoons not able to have 3 to 2 artillery. Make it 1 per platoon. Now, this might make, you know, queuing up a little bit longer or something like that. This might be an argument, but I truly feel, for gameplay's sake, limit it to 1, you know? Now, speaking of the whole stun mechanic, brings me to the other one, and that is the consumables. So currently you have the small first aid kits, and then usually an automatic fire extinguisher. This is usually the setup I take. The small first aid kit, if you press it once, and even if there's no crew dead, you will be, you know, the stun effect will be gone, no matter how long it was. So if you instantly use it, you're basically not stunned. However, the first aid kit has a 90-second cooldown, which is really dope, because you can use it again after 90 seconds. And I think that's awesome. Same goes for the small repair kit. And the same goes for the manual fire extinguisher, which is absolutely great. I love this change. I think this is probably one of the best things you guys have done this patch, is adding the reusability of consumables. Now, the more you use a consumable in a battle, doesn't matter for the cost. You buy it once. So if I use the small repair kit, say 3 times in one battle, I will still only pay the cost of 1. And if I don't use it at all, I won't use, and then I won't pay for it at all. Now, the one thing that I don't agree with is that the large repair kits, aka the premium ones, which cost a fuck ton more, are on a cooldown of 60 seconds. Now, that is a significant improvement. In a game where usually battles last 5 to 7 minutes, having the 30 seconds, you know, shorter cooldown is incredible. It's really good. But they also already have the permanent buffs. So you can see here the large first aid kits have -5 to stun duration and plus 15 protection and crew from energies, which is already a thing on live right now. Same goes for the small repair kit, and then the large repair kit, sorry, is plus 10% speed to module repairs. Now, personally, I would like to see all consumables be on the same level of reusability. So I would like to see the small repair kits and small first aid kits be on a 60-second cooldown. You already have a lot of benefits from running a large first aid kit or a large repair kit, and I think the extra 30 seconds, you know, over the small ones is too much. I think you should put either both of them on 90 or both of them on 60, and I personally prefer, considering the short length of a game, to put both kits on 60 and leave it the way it is otherwise. So, really good change. I would like to see them be pulled a bit more closer together with the reusability cooldown. That's pretty much what I have to say about the consumables there. So we have artillery, the consumables, and last but not least is obviously all the scout tanks, which is the main focus as well of this patch. I guess I could put a small note on the matchmaking. I think the matchmaking changes are absolutely fantastic, and I hope it leads to more similar tier battles at like tier 7 and 8, stuff like that. Matchmaking changes, absolutely awesome. Way better than what we have now. So if you guys don't know what the matchmaking changes are, If the matchmaking allows it, you will have a game where you only fight your own tier, so only tier 8, only tier 9, yada yada. The other matchmaking is that there's 3 top tier, 5 mid tier, and 7 bottom tier. So let's say there's 7 tier 6s, there's gonna be 5 tier 7s and then 3 tier 8s. That's the worst matchmaking you can get as a tier 6 then, which I think is really, really good. The other matchmaking is 5 top tier and 10 1 tier lower. So let's say 5 tier 8s, 10 tier 7s. Really awesome. Really, really, really good job there. I really like it. So anyway, let's talk about the scouts, because there's a couple of things that I think need to be addressed before it is launched, and that is mainly it's fairly small things that I think should probably be easy to change, but hey, I'm not a game developer. So the balance overall feels fine. I haven't really been able to play tier 5, 6, and 7s. Tier 6 and 7 seem to be absolutely fine on paper. The tier 5 seem to be on a little bit less health than they should be. But, you know, again, I haven't really play tested it, but I think it's fine. It looks okay. Overall, I think the balancing is pretty decently done. Obviously, Wargaming is going with pretty good gun handling, giving every light tank or scout tank vertical stabilizers, but making the dispersion usually pretty poor. This is fairly obvious if you take a look at the tier 10s, where the Russian has like a dispersion of 0.44. Obviously not allowing for any sniping, but it does have a really good aiming time, making close fights, you know, making them less derpy that way, but obviously making not able to snipe. And I think that's absolutely fine. The German tank actually has a right to be here now with 0.36, making the German tank actually more of a sniper, which was always kind of the thing about the Germans, that they had snipey guns, but it never really mattered. So in the scout tanks, it actually comes forth a little bit, which I really like. The tier 9s as well seem perfectly fine, and there's only a couple of things I don't like about the tier 8s. But before I get into that, there's another thing about all the scouts, that the power to weight gets absolutely insane, especially in the higher tiers. The power to weight and top speeds gets insane, but it really feels good to play them, and I think it's fine. The only thing I don't agree with is the fact that a lot of this, especially, again, already kind of starts at tier 8, tier 9 and 10 as well, is that because of the crazy power to weight, they can get into places on maps that no tank ever was able to go. And I think they need to do something about that. I think if you show on the minimap that is impassable terrain, and you cannot go there, that you shouldn't be able to go there. So I think the power to weight, top speeds are fine. Just don't let them climb into every nook and cranny of the map. This would smooth out gameplay a whole lot more. Would keep the same fun of having the top speeds and, you know, zooming around. That's all absolutely fine. I think it's fine. But please, please fix the maps in such a way that you cannot find like scouts in the weirdest of positions that your minimap shows would never be a tank. Please address this. I think that's really big. It has already been an issue with the Swedish TDs and stuff like that, and to limited amounts for batch heads that they can climb in weird places. Now, I get that you might want to keep it because of like esports or whatever, but I truly feel like the esports is such a different beast that they need their own maps anyway. Please, and with the scouts it just gets insane. The weird places you can put them in. So please, please address this. So anyway, I think that the scouts are relatively balanced across the board. I think it's absolutely fine. The tier 10s look fine the way they are. However, at tier 8, there's some anomalies. Namely, and for the most part, it's the Betjet 12T and the Bulldog. Now, the Betjet 12T, I think, is horribly underpowered. It has a 4-shell magazine, which all the previous tiers had as well. It has 170 pen, which, you know, you could get away with maybe. 170 damage. Dispersion is aiming time is okay. But comparing this to almost any other tier 8 is really, really shit. And I kind of feel like either the reload should just be brought down some more, and then maybe even the time between loading shells, maybe. It definitely needs some kind of gun buff, and maybe a little bit more power to weight. Now, The reason I say this as well is because there's a tier 8 now, that is the Bulldog, which used to be the tier 7 Bulldog, and it actually kept the autoloader in the exact same fashion that it was at tier 7. In tier 7, this gun was already absolutely bonkers, if not overpowered. But it was kind of kept in check by the fact that it met tier 8, tier 9, and tier 10s, and it could be bottom tier. However, new matchmaking allows scouts to be top tier, or and in general allows scouts to have a much better matchmaking. What this means is if you don't nerf this gun, is that it can clip anything it sees off its own tier and lower. Now, we've talked about matchmaking before, where there's going to be 3 top tiers, 5 mid tiers, 7 bottom tiers. That means that if the Bulldog is top tier, it can single-handedly clip 2 tier 6s. It can clip any tier 7, and if it gets lucky, it can clip any tier 8. This is way, way, way too powerful. The only nerf that was to it is the reload time went up by like 2 seconds. This needs to be nerfed. This is way, way too good for the new matchmaking. Obviously you have the the T67 M32 late now, which has a bit more alpha, and the DPM is still really good, 2530, which is fine. I just think that this gun, like, imagine a platoon of 3 Bulldogs being top tier is just not gonna be fun for everyone but the Bulldogs, and I don't think that's gameplay that you wanna emphasize on. So I'm okay with it having an autoloader, but comparing this autoloader to a 12T is simply ridiculous. It just is, because the long reload time of the Bulldog doesn't even really matter. It can pass a spot at the beginning of the game. It can keep spotting in between reloads and just go in, clip a Tiger 1, easily done, and go back home. Now, of course, it will still see tier 10s and 9s, don't get me wrong, but I do feel that this is simply way too strong. And then if you take a look at the 12T, it is absolutely pathetic. So please do another balance check here. I wouldn't go as far as to take away the autoloader entirely, but it definitely needs less shells in the magazine, so that it cannot literally butcher everyone. It also got more health, better power to weight, stuff like that. It's also really easy to handle with -10 gun depression. Aiming time is still really good. Dispersion is still pretty good compared to a lot of other scouts. So I think that's going a little bit too far. Same as with the T71. It's 20 seconds for 150 average damage. This might also be maybe a little bit too strong, but for the most part, I feel like the Bulldog is the one that really could use another look at. And it's just the autoloader. Everything else I think is fine. I think it just needs to be addressed, and the 12T Batchet needs to be buffed. It's especially silly considering that the Batchet 12T, which is probably one of the shittier tier 8s, leads to 3 tanks that are all really good, or good to really good, which means that you have to spend a research cost of about 600,000 in one shitty tier 8, and I don't think anyone really wants to go through that. And making this a little bit more of a positive experience to play would mean that a lot more people will get to see the other tanks in the French tech tree, because other than that, there's only the Flash 5 and the 50B. So please do something about the 12T. Nerf the Bulldog, for the love of all that's holy. Now, there's other thing that's a little bit controversial. I personally am okay with it. If you currently grind or play the lightweight, for example, let's take the lightweight as an example, that's at tier 8 now. Any XP that you grinded on the lightweight will transfer to the LTB, and you will get the LTB as well. But the XP, as you can see, I grinded 57k on the lightweight, does not transfer to tier 9, which means you cannot already grind to get the tier 10s. Now, I get the frustration here, because a lot of people were grinding for the last month or more, so they can have the new scouts that were on the horizon and leaked and put on the World Tanks website, yada yada. So I understand the frustration. However, I do kind of agree with this decision, and that people just need to play the tier 9s to get the tier 10s instead of playing the tier 8s. Like, it's a minor thing towards me. A lot of people will probably disagree. A lot of people might agree. But but just as personal feedback, I think that's absolutely fine. I think they've shown on the Russian server that only like 5% or something of the entire player base actually grinded XP on it or something, so it's not going to affect too many people. I understand that people are going to be frustrated about that. However, I think it is fine. And this actually reminds me that the SP1C lost its autoloader and stuff like that, so and the VK 2801 lost the derp, so you know there's definitely has been put thought into the autoloaders and derp guns of the scout vehicles, which makes a gun choice on the 12T and a gun choice on the Bulldog that much weirder to me, so they should definitely take a look at that. All in all though, mostly talked about the negatives here, or the things that I would like to see changed. All in all though, really solid patch, and I pretty much can't wait for the patch to hit, because it's a lot more playable than the current live server if you ask me. So all in all, a good patch. I like the RT changes, I like the new scouts. I like the fact that older tanks now also get third stabs, such as the premiums. This might make the Type 64 a little bit too OP, being top, because it was already good and can be top tier now with third stabs. That's another thing you might want to take a look at. But yes, all in all, good patch. One of the better patches I've seen in a long time. Hopefully my feedback reaches someone somewhere, and maybe we can see a change into some of the things I talked about. I think that, for example, the RT change for the platoons is a really easy thing to implement, and I think it would benefit pretty much everyone. Anyway, thanks for listening, everyone. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to check out more maybe gameplay videos of the test server, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, everyone.